Hello, my brilliant cosmic particles, ready to break a few laws of physics today. Ah, there you are. I was just recalibrating the multiverse. Yes, recalibrating the multiverse. Come in, come in. Welcome to the ultimate playground of wonder, where the impossible becomes just another experiment waiting to be conducted. They say reality is serious business, but I say it's the most spectacular, most mind-bending experiment we can ever undertake. Today we're firing up our improbability engine and plugging in a truly bizarre variable. Yes, a very, very strange idea. And the question is, what if I could tell my past self the lottery numbers? Get ready to question everything you thought you knew about time, fate, and probability. Fasten your neural seatbelts, because this is going to be a weird ride. Phase 1, pause. 2, imagine yourself standing in a vast, shimmering carnival of chaos where every spin of the wheel, every draw of the card, and every lottery ticket is governed by the whimsical, unpredictable hand of chance. In our universe, the outcomes of lotteries are purely random, a wild dance of probability and statistics that laughs in the face of logic. You see, when you buy that ticket, you not just gambling, you re-entering a realm where the universe tosses a coin, heads or tails, win or lose, without rhyme or reason. And this is where it gets interesting, because the sound of the ball bouncing in the machine, the flash of the number generator, the collective gasp of hopefuls, all these are orchestrated by randomness, a chaotic symphony that keeps the universe exciting, unpredictable, and much, much, much stranger. Just imagine the feeling, the thrill of knowing that no matter how much you analyze the odds, the universe Zas Lottery is a wild card, a cosmic game of pin the tail on the donkey, except the donkey is an unpredictable god with a sense of humor and a giant wheel of fortune. Now, hold on to your quantum hats, because what if this randomness was so random? What if somehow the universe could cheat? But for now, in this phase, it's all chance, all chaos, and all the delicious, unpredictable flavor of pure luck. Much, much stranger. And that changes everything. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 2. Imagine, just for a wild second, you've traveled back in time and leaned over to whisper the winning lottery numbers into your past self's ear. And as you do, something utterly bizarre happens. The moment your future knowledge slips into the past, the universe shudders like a cosmic whoopee cushion being squeezed. The randomness of the lottery, which was once a chaotic dance of chance, instantly collapses into a perfect crystalline certainty. No more guessing, no more hope, just pure, unadulterated knowledge. Now, the numbers are no longer random scribbles, but deterministic blueprints etched into the fabric of reality itself. And this is where it gets incredibly insane, because once you know the winning numbers, the universe doesn't just adjust, it rewrites itself. The balls and the drum stop bouncing midair, frozen in place, as if time itself has hit pause for a cosmic joke. The sounds of the machines grinding to a halt echo through the void, and the air thickens with the scent of paradox and potential. You suddenly realize that luck was never luck at all. It is just a fragile illusion, like a house of cards built on quantum sand. And that changes everything. The concept of chance crumbles into dust, replaced by a universe where everything is predictable, where randomness is just a shadow on a deterministic wall. Much, much stranger, isn't it? The fabric of reality now feels like a giant blueprint, and you're the architect of your own destiny, except... Oh wait, you already knew the blueprint! That's just one of the consequences! What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments! My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 3. Now, just imagine you wake up one day in a world where the outcome of every lottery, every gamble, every roll of the cosmic dice is known in advance. The roar of the slot machines, silence, the frantic clicking of roulette wheels, dead because, guess what? No one is gambling anymore. The thrill of the unknown, the rush of risk poof gone, evaporated like a magician's smoke. And that changes everything. You see, in this universe, wealth and power are no longer the mysterious prizes handed out by luck. Instead, they become boringly predictable like a boring old clock, ticking away second by second. The rich, they sit on their iron thrones, knowing exactly how their empire will grow or crumble before it even begins. And the poor, well, they're not poor anymore, just bored. Because in a world where the outcome is known, the concept of chance becomes a ghost haunting the abandoned casino of society. And here's where it gets insane. The entire economy collapses. No more betting, no more high-stakes poker nights, no more thrill of the unpredictable, the soundscape. It's eerily quiet, like a library. After hours, no cash registers ringing, no lively chatter, just the faint hum of the universe's dead certainty. And that, my friends, that changes everything. Wealth no longer dances on the edge of chaos. It's a dull, predictable march. And this is where it gets much, much stranger. Society's entire fabric is rewoven into a tapestry of boredom, monotony, and absolute control. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 4. Welcome to the wild, chaotic crossroads of time itself. Imagine just for a second that you somehow know the winning lottery numbers from the past. You're sitting there, smug as a cat in a sunbeam, thinking you've cracked the code of the universe. But here's where it gets deliciously insane. What happens if you actually use that knowledge to change the past? Well, buckle up, because you're about to enter a realm where causality becomes a spaghetti mess of paradoxes that would make even Einstein's hair stand on end. When you go back and pick those winning numbers, you erase the original event from history. But wait, if those numbers never led to the original lottery, then how did you know them in the first place? That's the paradox cocktail, your future self, a time-traveling fortune teller, rewriting the story of the universe. And this is where it gets so much stranger. If the future has been altered, then the original lottery results evaporate into the ether, vanished into a black hole of causality, leaving you in a loop where the past and future dance a chaotic tango, each dependent on the other, never resolving. Much, much stranger. You see, the very act of knowing the future's secrets could unravel the timeline so completely that it loops back on itself, like a cosmic Ouroboros biting its tail, whispering, "Who's really in charge here?" And that changes everything. The universe might just be a giant cosmic prank, forever stuck in an infinite game of cause and effect, hide and seek. So what if your secret knowledge isn't a gift but a curse? Just imagine the mind-bending, soul-shattering chaos of a universe where time is just an elaborate tangled ball of yarn, and you're the cat trying to pull on one string, and it's pulling back harder than you ever imagined. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 5, much, much stranger. Imagine a world where everyone, yes, everyone knew the winning lottery numbers before the draw even happened. Just picture it, the streets buzzing with anticipation, a symphony of gasps and giggles as people rush to claim their fortunes. Except, wait, if everyone knew, what happens to the very nature of chance? The thrill of the gamble, the fluttering excitement of the unknown, all erased like a bad joke. And here's the kicker: society would need to rewrite the rulebook on fairness, justice, and destiny itself. No more random winners, no more underdog stories, just a giant game of predictability, like a cosmic chess match where no one makes a move out of turn. But think about this. Would the concept of luck even exist anymore? Or would life become a monotonous march through predetermined outcomes, like a robotic dance to a tune only you and your psychic friends can hear? And that's where it gets deliciously chaotic. If we strip away chance, do we also strip away free will? Does it all become a giant, elaborate illusion, much, much stranger? And that changes everything. Society would be a strange, hyper-calculable universe where risk, reward, and morality are turned upside down. And I ask you, what happens to human nature when the thrill of the unknown is abolished? That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 6. Welcome to the chaos, my fellow quantum explorers. Now, imagine revealing the future telling your past self the winning lottery numbers sound simple, right? But here's where it gets absolutely bonkers. In this universe, just Diddy knowing, the outcome doesn't just give you a sneak peek, it kicks off a wild feedback loop that warps reality itself. And I mean furially warped. When you spill those future secrets, it's as if the universe suddenly hears your confession and says, "Oh, you want to know the ending? Well, let's shake things up." Suddenly, the future you predicted isn't just a fixed point, but a superposition of possibilities, each one influenced by your own knowledge. It's like trying to tune a radio while the signal keeps changing. Static, interference, and cosmic chaos. The act of revealing the outcome doesn't just observe reality, it creates it anew, blurring the line between what's real and what's perceived. You hear the universe crackle like a mad scientist's laboratory, sparks flying, clocks ticking backwards, and your own mind spiraling into paradoxical loops. And that changes everything. Because now, every time you peek, you're not just observing the future, you're participating in its endless chaotic dance. The universe laughs, the quantum strings tangle, and you realize in this universe, knowledge isn't power. It's a wild card that rewrites the game itself. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 7. Welcome to the cascading universe where the very fabric of reality has gone full domino effect. Imagine a universe so obsessed with certainty that it flips the entire script. No more pesky randomness, no more surprise parties thrown by quantum shenanigans. Instead, everything is preordained, every heartbeat, every sneeze, even the moment you accidentally step on a banana peel, which, spoiler alert, was always destined to happen. And here's where it gets wild, because if everyone knows the future, if the outcomes are etched into the cosmic blueprint, then free will. It's just an illusion, a fancy trick played by a universe that's decided to play chess with itself and not bother hiding its moves. You might hear the universe whispering or maybe shouting as every event echoes through the corridors of eternity with an eerie, unchangeable certainty. The sound is like a symphony of ticking clocks, each one marking a moment that was always meant to happen no matter how much you wish otherwise. And that changes everything, because if nothing is left to chance, then chaos and randomness are just stories we tell ourselves to feel alive. The universe becomes a giant cosmic puppet show strings pulled with perfect precision, no surprises, no accidents. Just imagine the weight of knowing that your choices were never truly free, just part of the grand, unbreakable script. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas, because in this universe, much, much stranger, certainty is king, and free will is just a fleeting illusion. Phase 8. Now, brace yourself because we're diving into the most mind-bending universe, shattering idea of all. What if knowing the future could tear apart the very fabric of reality? Imagine, just for a second, that you possess a superpower so absurdly powerful, it makes Superman look like a kindergartner with a crayon. The knowledge of the future. But here's where it gets much stranger. This isn't just about knowing what's for breakfast tomorrow. No, we're talking about peeking into the cosmic crystal ball that reveals every twist, every turn, every chaotic bubble in the universe's spaghetti of causality. And that changes everything, because if you surely knew the lottery numbers, the stock market crashes, or the exact moment the universe will end, then you're basically holding the universe's secret recipe, like knowing the secret source of reality itself. Imagine the sounds, the ticking of a clock echoing in an impossible loop, the hum of space-time bending, and the sickening realization that perhaps you're not free at all. Maybe every choice you make is just a pre-written scene in the cosmic screenplay, destined, predictable, boring. Or worse, what if knowing the future collapses the universe into a static snapshot, freezing everything in place like a cosmic photograph? This is where chaos reigns, and our understanding of free will crumbles like a cookie in a black hole. So, ask yourself, are we truly free, or are we just passengers on a deterministic roller coaster? And this is where it gets koshin insanely awesome, because once you realize the universe might be a grand, chaotic puppet show, your mind explodes into a supernova of possibilities. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas.